Welcome to Wherever It Goes, everybody. We're at episode 27. I think, yeah, doing pretty well. You don't keep track, but I do.
don't keep track.
Episode 27. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Thanks for the Instagram followers. Anyone who's new from Instagram or TikTok, we're at, I think, 20,000 on Instagram, 21,000.
Woo, woo, woo. For all you
29,000.
naysayers who said over and over again, your podcast is trash, the people who would comment on our videos and say stuff like, wow, they just give anybody a podcast microphone, or they should make it illegal for random people to buy microphones. All those comments, guess what? We have 20,000 people who think it's worth it for us to buy a freaking microphone. So,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Whoa. That wasn't for our followers. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we love you.
And our TikTok, I think we're at like 15,000 or something. For the first year, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
only been 11 months. 10 months.
January is going to be a year, I think.
It's been 10 months.
I think January 6th was our first episode. So we're about to come up on a year and we'll start season 2. But yeah, let me know what you think about the black curtains. Trying those out. We tried gray for a little bit and it felt too gray. So black it is. Anyway, this week on the podcast, we're going to talk about a Reddit thread. I don't know if that's what you call it. I don't
understand Reddit.
I'm not familiar to the Reddit lingo, but a Reddit.
What is Reddit?
It's like a place where people go ask questions mostly, I think.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like questions about anything.
I always thought it was like kind of like Twitter.
I don't think so. Maybe people use it like that. But from what I understand, like I only see it when I ask a question on like Google or whatever, and then it'll be like this person on Reddit.
I see that too.
Yeah, they asked the same question like 50 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, cool. And then you look at it, and then there's replies from like 5 years ago, and then 3 months ago or whatever. Anyway, so this one, it's I'm gonna just call it a thread. Someone can correct me if it's wrong, but it's titled "Am I the Asshole?"
Oof.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So I figured this would be fun.
Beep.
How many times can you say ass before it becomes rated R? Anyway.
I mean,
from this point forward, we won't say, "Am I the asshole?"
Beep.
We'll say, what should we say? Am I the butthole?
That's worse to me. That's like, butthole is a dirty word. I don't like it coming out of my mouth. Ew.
You like what coming out of your mouth?
Butthole. I don't know. It's like,
we're children.
Like, honestly, I don't know what it is, but it's like, I would rather say, okay, if you're our parents, don't listen to this. I would rather like say like crotch or coochie instead of the technical word vagina. Like vagina is just so weird to me.
When you say it like that too.
And like butthole.
That's
like
called
I
an
would
anus.
rather say sphincter or anus. But butthole, I don't know. There's just like some words that are just like.
We gotta get off this. We made it worse than it was. We could have just left it at that, but all right. Am I the dingus? So we're trying to figure out who's wrong in these scenarios. That's the whole point. And I did not go through these. So we might cut some out. We might I'll read them and then we'll talk about them and we'll try to decide who's the beep. You know what I'm saying? I don't think asshole's a bad word, especially if you're being an asshole.
And here's the thing. Are cuss words really that bad? We could get into that later, but yeah.
All right. Anyway, am I the asshole for stepping up when my little sister got her period? So I, 14, and my little sister, 12, have never been, that's not their names. I've been watching too much Stranger Things. Have never been close. Classic sibling relationship. My mom and dad recently divorced, and now my mom works a lot. Since then, me and my sister, let's call her Allie, grew closer. We started talking more and hanging out more and having a real relationship. So last night around 8 p.m., Allie comes into my room in tears. I could instantly tell something was off, so I asked, and she said, I think I started my period. I comforted and told her it was going to be all right and all that jazz. Did you ever say all that jazz?
Mm-hmm.
We used to say that all the time. I showed her how to use a pad, and after that I got some hot cocoa and sat on the couch and explained my big sister knowledge about periods and stuff. Dude, this sounds like a 14-year-old writing. I didn't go into full detail because I wanted to respect my mom, but I didn't want Allie to feel clueless. After that, I DoorDashed us some Taco Bell. A 14-year-old.
You're 14 and you're... Hold up. You're 14 and you're door dashing Taco Bell?
Yeah. And we watched cheesy Hallmark movies. My mom got home around 10. I told her what happened. She went crazy. She said I was overstepping and I should have called her. And I have not told Allie anything, just gave her a pad. She said I was ignoring her feelings and being ignorant, and that it was her job as a mother to explain everything to Allie. I tried to tell her I only said the basics, but she sent me to my room. I feel awful now, and I'm wondering, am I the asshole?
Okay, sounds like this mom is like super insecure and has like a power complex. Because listen, what are sisters for if not to talk about these things? I would much rather, if I had been close to my sisters, I would much rather have talked to my sisters about that than my mom. You know what I'm saying? Really?
I'm trying to find the next one. Sorry. We need a producer. If you're a producer, help us out. I don't know much stuff about this period world.
I would much rather
when
have
I
had
got
my
my period,
sister.
my big sister told me all about it.
Shut up.
And then we were good to go.
I don't think the mom was in the right to be angry at. I would have been like, thank you for doing that. Thank you for helping your sister. Like that was awesome of you to do.
What would you be afraid of? Like as a mom? Like what's the worst thing?
Afraid of in like this scenario?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Like why wouldn't you want one of your kids to... One, it's like it could be a special moment or something that the mom's like, I want it to be a part of this.
No, it's not a special moment. It's not a special moment. It's embarrassing. No kid wants to talk to their mom about starting their period.
Well, maybe some moms want to talk to their kids about it.
I guarantee this girl already learned everything she needed to know in health class. That's
12?
where I learned it all. Yes. That's where I learned it. Listen, I talked to my mom about it, obviously.
Yeah, it's good for the mom
obviously, tell your mom, hey, mom, I started my period. And if your mom wants to be like, yeah, like, so if it was me and Phoebe, if she had an older sister and she started her period and went to her older sister and her older sister helped her out and like gave her advice and sat down and made her hot cocoa and bought her Taco Bell, I'd be like, you are such an amazing big sister. Thank you so much for doing all of that. And then I would go and have a conversation with my daughter and be like, hey, so-and-so told me that you started your period. Let's talk about it. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means from here on out? This is going to happen to you once a month. Yada, yada, yada. Give her the rundown. But honestly, it's up to my daughter if she wants to have that conversation with me. You know what I'm saying? Like I will tell her like, how do I explain it? Like I'll tell her the basics of it, but if she in that moment doesn't feel comfortable talking about it, okay. Let's talk about it later when you feel more comfortable about it.
Is there something dangerous about?
No, other than the only thing dangerous about starting your period is you could get pregnant now. If you started having sex, you could get pregnant. And if you use tampons, if you leave your tampon in too long, you can get toxic shock syndrome and that can kill you. Those are the only dangerous things about starting your period.
I thought maybe if...
You can't bleed out.
Maybe if the older sister didn't tell the mom until like months later or something, then it'd be like, why haven't you told me? But for it to be like that day, you just took care of your little sister until mom got home. And then when mom got home, you told her. It's like,
Yeah. There shouldn't have been any reason for that mom to be angry.
Is the asshole in that situation.
I hope that if Phoebe has a little sister, my hope would be that she would help her sister out like that and not just like push her off to the side and say, mom will take care of it when she gets home.
Okay. Am I the bad guy? That's what I'm going to start saying. Am I the bad guy for refusing to babysit my sister's kids again? My sister constantly asks me to babysit her 2 young children, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. She knows I have a demanding job, but still expects me to drop everything to watch them. I've babysat for her a few times in the past, but it's always a stressful experience. The kids are loud, messy, and difficult to manage. They don't listen to me, and they're constantly causing trouble. Last time I babysat, they completely trashed my apartment. They spilled juice on my new carpet, drew on my walls with markers. Welcome to having kids in your home. And broke my favorite vintage record player. My sister just laughed it off, saying, kids will be kids. Dang, I just did that. I'm not okay with this. I'm not a professional babysitter. I shouldn't have to clean up after her children all the time. I told her I wouldn't be babysitting anymore, but she got upset. She accused me of being selfish and not caring about family. I feel like I'm being reasonable. I have my own life to live, and I shouldn't have to sacrifice my time and energy for my sister's convenience.
I agree with that. I don't think if you have kids, you should not expect anybody in your family, not your mom, not your brother, not your sister, not your grandparents. You should not expect any family member to take care of your children. That's your responsibility. The second you decide to have children, they are your responsibility. You cannot put that on anybody else. You cannot expect that. Now, that's not me trying to say you can't ask for help. Ask for the help. 90% of the time, I'm sure your family would be willing to help. But you can't expect it. It would be wrong of me to say, hey, mom, come here, and the only thing I want you to do while you're here is take care of my children while I go and do this. Now, my mom is coming here, and she is coming to help out with the children. But I told her straight up, Mom, I do not expect you to clean my house every day. I do not expect you to take care of my children every day. I do not expect you to do my laundry, or I don't expect these things from you. I would appreciate the help a lot, but if you don't feel like you can do it or like you want to do it, that's fine. I don't expect that from you.
I'm going to try to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to push back on you. If you're someone's sibling, you have nieces and nephews close by. You good?
Yeah, there was like a fuzz flying around.
If you have nieces and nephews that live close by, I think this is hard because this is the situation my sisters are in. Like they're kind of close to each other. One of them has 2 kids, the other has none. I think a good sibling would offer to help and understand that parenting is hard and try to help as often as they could. And I think a good parent would not expect that. So maybe I'm not playing devil's advocate, but I do think that as a sibling, the loving thing to do is to help take care of your nieces and nephews.
Right. But
should you expect that as the parent of the kids? No.
Imagine even us having kids. Imagine we had a friend or a family member and they said, hey, I want you to babysit my kids every day. And their kids trashed our house. Like, I would be pretty upset if their kids were trashing our house, their kids were disrespectful, their kids didn't listen. And because we do have our own lives, and it's not my responsibility to take care of your children. It's my responsibility to take care of my children. And if we didn't have children, it's still not my responsibility. You know? Obviously, if my friends ask me to help out with their children, 100%, most of the time, if I'm not busy, yes, of course. But if they started expecting that from me and we didn't have any prior arrangements, like, hey, will you watch my kids this day for the next 10 months or whatever? If we didn't have an agreement like that and they started expecting me to watch their children, even after I told them, like, hey, your kids are very disrespectful to me, I would be upset. Especially if they got upset at me for setting boundaries. That's not okay.
Yeah, I don't think you should ever expect your family to watch your kids. It does suck. I understand, like, not feeling like you're alone as a parent. Like, we've had moments where it's just like us and the kids, and
well, and then
where's the help? It kind of feels like that.
Yeah. Well, and then it comes into play because we've had a conversation before about, like, if you don't expect anything, then you can't really be disappointed. And I agree to that in some terms, not really in the terms we were talking about before, but like, if you ask your parents to watch your kids, fully expect them to say no. Because it makes that yes so much better and you're so much more grateful for it. And then if they do say no, it's like, okay, I was kind of expecting that. So I'm not too let down by it. I'm not too upset by it. Let me go ask somebody else.
This is funny because I'm going to take this analogy and kind of flip it in an area that you've disagreed with me. You know where this is going?
Yes.
So in marriage, it should be the same thing. Man and woman should not expect.
To a degree. I think yes in some situations. Now, I think in other situations, there are expectations. I think marriage has to have expectations of, you take care of me when I'm sick. Why? Because that was in our vows. You take care of our children. Why? Because you said you were going to. And like I was just saying, if you had made prior arrangements, hey, you're going to watch my kids these days for the next 10 months. Yeah, I would totally expect them to watch my kids if they said they were going to. It's when you say you're going to do something, that's when there is that expectation of, like, hey, you said you were going to do this and now you're not doing this. And I fully expected you to do it because you said you were going to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just threw that. Does that make sense? That's my saying. Does that make sense? You just did that to me. Feels weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say in marriage, it's the whole fairness conversation. It's not supposed to be fair. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be a team. And that doesn't always mean that it's going to be 50-50.
Right.
And so if you expect it to be 50-50, you are going to go into marriage and it's going to suck. Because you're going to do your 50% and your spouse is going to do their 20%, let's say. And then there's 30% missing. And you're going to say, I'm not going to do that because I expect you to do it. And then that 30%, over time, that becomes worse and worse. And then you say, fine, I'm only going to do my 20%. And then they're doing 20%. And then you have 60% that's being undone. Like, you're just not doing things.
Yeah.
But if you live in a way that's like, I fully expect to take 100%, give myself 100% to you, then when your spouse doesn't do anything, you're just doing your job. And then when they do help out, which chances are they will, if you're both doing it, it's perfect, right? If you're both kind of doing this whole, like, we got to figure out the 100% somehow. And so you're one day, like, the husband's up here, one day the wife's up here. Like, if you're both doing that, then it works out. But when you both start to expect the other person, like, oh, you're not carrying your weight, then you both just try to get beneath the other, and then it starts to fall apart. That's where I say expectations are bad.
Right.
You should fully expect to, this is where people are like, oh, what about your spouse that is abusive or stuff like that? But that's different. I'm talking about, well, even then, okay, if you want me to get really extreme, should you let your spouse abuse you? What does that mean today, first of all?
Oh, gosh.
Because a lot of people, I mean, we've kind of had this conversation before, but what does it mean to be abused by your spouse? And a lot of people would say, oh, they're narcissistic. They emotionally abused me. They withheld this from me. They didn't talk to me. just weren't. They just are an emotionally abusive person. Emotional abuse is like probably my least favorite saying. Like that's a pet peeve of mine. I think when people say they're
I think
emotionally
that
abused.
emotional abuse is very real, but I think today a lot of people just use it as an excuse.
Everyone is bad. Everyone is rude. Everyone is like anything that anyone does can be taken the wrong way.
Right. Like, oh, he hurt my feelings today.
Yeah.
He said he didn't like what I was wearing. He's so emotionally abusive.
And to go through your marriage like that, that's stupid. Why would you go through your marriage and be like, oh, my spouse, he didn't tell me he loved me today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I almost said shut up. But
here's the thing is because I think, and I've said this before, but people love to play victim.
Yeah.
And so they're going to do that any way they can. And crying emotional abuse, and I don't want to take away from people who have truly been abused in that way. I have been abused in that way. Okay. I mean, my father used to take my school pictures and write worst daughter ever on my picture in Sharpie and put it on the fridge for the whole family to see. So I know what emotional abuse is. And coming from somebody who's been emotionally abused, there are a lot of people out there who are going to take that saying and just use it as an excuse to play victim, to be a victim in some way. And it's very sad.
Even that, I'm not trying to call you out. As a kid, maybe I understand more. But like, there's just mean people. And if you just live on that, then your life is going to suck. But if you're like, okay, this guy's just a POS and he's just going to call me the worst daughter ever, who cares?
Right. But you don't understand that as a kid.
As a kid, there's a lot of... As a kid,
you're sitting there and you're like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And turns out the only thing I was doing wrong was I wasn't his real daughter. And
you look to, girls, I think specifically, and boys too, but they look to their fathers for approval and...
Mm-hmm. Yes. Having that father figure is so important. And when that important figure who is supposed to love you and show you love isn't doing that, and they're doing quite the opposite in every way possible, like, I don't know.
My issue is when I always come for women, not on purpose, but I do think that they're the primary ones who are claiming emotional abuse against their husbands when their husbands are just maybe exhausted. I think husbands get emotionally exhausted, and then their wives say that their husbands are emotionally abusive because their husbands they're not designed to sit there and talk about feelings all the time. Like, men just want to get things done and move on. But women are so emotionally wired that like they need an outlet somehow, and I think other women are the right answer. But trying to lay that on your husband is not good.
And women also are, and I'm not a psychologist in any means, but I feel like women are the ones who more so seek attention. They crave attention. They love attention. Some women like bad attention. Like, they like to be victims. They like for people to say, oh, poor you. I'm so sorry that he's not like telling you look pretty today. Yada, yada, yada. And I say that cautiously because it's not all women. I'm not saying all women. But from what I have personally seen,
men don't do that.
I've not seen men do that. I've not met any man who does that.
But
I'll tell you what, growing up in school, I never had any beef with guys. That's why most of my friends were boys, because girls were just too much. They were catty. They wanted the attention for themselves. If the attention was ever on me, it was like they would turn on me and make up lies about me. And it was just icky. It was icky. And I've seen it with women primarily. So
I'm not going to point fingers, but I've seen women, adult women, gossip so easy. And it's like they find it so interesting for some reason. Like you guys find it just so interesting to talk about.
I will admit that
stuff.
we do. I admit that, and I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
Like that is one thing that I really want to work on. Just as a Christian, you know, you're not supposed to gossip, and I try not to. But it's like when I'm talking with my mom and I'm like, this girl did this and it's just so annoying, blah, 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 you know? But yeah, I don't know.
It's not fair to people. I don't think gossip is fair to people. But also it's like here's the thing that women do is they'll like go to each other and say one half of the story, and then you'll have a girlfriend that completely just leans into, I'm on your side, like you're completely in the right. And I don't think that's healthy for women.
I don't think so either.
Because they'll go and be like, my husband did this. And it's like, oh my gosh, what a dumb person. But maybe, I don't know. Part of me is like, maybe there is value in that because then women get to get out a little bit of their emotional complaints or whatever. They get to get out some of that. They have a little release valve for it instead of directing it at their husband. They gossip about it with a friend, a girlfriend, and then you both kind of laugh it off and then get back to it, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it's valuable to have some of those friends that you can vent to.
It is like a good outlet to be able to talk to somebody and like get your emotions out. But I think that can be done in a way that's not like degrading to other people. Like I think it's fine to say like, this person did this and it made me really angry. I think that's fine. I think it's bad when you start to tell lies and you start to exaggerate. Be like, she did that and I bet you she does this, because that creates rumors.
All the time. When you're like on the phone and I hear you start to do that kind of stuff, I'm like Emily, like hold it back a little bit, pull back. Like that's.
Except I don't create rumors. And I'm telling you, I do not create rumors.
No, but the game of telephone is a way of starting rumors too. Because if you just there's some details about stories or whatever that are relevant and you'll like.
But here's the thing too.
I'm not saying you, I'm saying just like.
Here's the thing too is like my conversations, and it's primarily with my mom, only with my mom. I talk to her about everything. It starts with a conversation with my mom, and then it goes to Carlos, and then it ends. Nobody else hears about it. Like I'm not out here just like telling everybody my business, you know?
That's where it ends on this branch.
Huh?
That's how stories spread, right? They're not just linear. It's not like I tell you, you tell someone, someone tells someone else. It's I tell you and I tell someone, and then you both tell two people, and then those two people tell two people. So it's not like just. Anyway, that's. I'm not trying to come after anyone specifically. I just think that.
You just sat there and outed me for 10 minutes. Oh my gosh, shut up.
Women are just such a big problem in the world. I'm just kidding.
That better be a joke.
I don't hate women. You think I hate women? 2 of my favorite people are women. I'll let you guys guess who that is.
That kind of like got way off topic from like the Reddit.
Am I the bad guy for calling out my husband's exaggerations in front of others? To summarize, my husband has a tendency to exaggerate a lot. Whenever he does this in front of others, I end up correcting him in front of everyone. My husband seems to think that what I do is undermine him all the time by doing this. I keep telling him that he should work on himself first by improving this habit of constantly exaggerating and sometimes even compulsively lying in front of others. He tells me that perhaps I should refrain from correcting him all the time as well. However, he can't seem to stop this habit, and I can't seem to stop myself from correcting him either. Comes to me involuntarily. That little All right, we'll come back to that. We'll circle back. Today he started a big fight with me over this issue. He keeps telling me that I keep on undermining him, but he seems not willing to make any moves to fix this trait of his either. Am I really the asshole here? Should I perhaps try to control myself better and let him know my options while we are alone together and go along with whatever he is saying in public? Just a note, the things he makes up tales about are usually always non-consequential stuff. Should I perhaps learn to let it go more? 2 examples from today that my husband is mad about. First, to further justify why he disliked a client at work whom I also happen to dislike, he was saying stuff like this person had gone and escalated one of my husband's colleagues to the other clients by saying unfavorable things about this man. As far as I know, this did not happen. I work in the same office, so I asked, when did that happen? That I did not recall anything of this nature. Okay, that's kind of a confusing example, but it's your husband saying something to prove why he doesn't like someone, and you're like, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. And their second point, he was showing a cute picture of us to a friend who asked if we kissed after that picture. He said that we did, but he wouldn't show her the picture. I mentioned that we did not kiss after that picture and have no such photos. What?
Yeah, what?
So it's like, okay, we both kind of do this.
Yep.
I would say I sometimes add stuff, but the majority of the time it's never to be mean or anything like that. I'll add something to be funny is most of the time. I'll say something that's completely not true.
Yes, you'll say something that is like, so here's the thing is Carlos's humor is very
Dry.
Yeah. Not a lot of people understand it unless you know him personally.
I don't laugh at my own jokes.
Yes, so he'll say a joke with a straight face,
like
won't
I hate women.
laugh.
Like I hate women. That's as an example.
And nobody understands that he is joking. So I have to butt in and be like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. So that they know that he's doesn't hate women or that he didn't like, he'll say something like, yeah, I beat her every night with a straight freaking face. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. And I have to do that because nobody can tell that he's joking. It's not funny. It's not funny because it's like if they could tell you were joking, it would be funny. But nobody can. Sometimes I can't even tell if you're joking.
Well, a lot of the times I count on you to call me out. I think that's like that's part of my joke. Part of my joke is me saying something that you completely just are like, no, that's not true. And I think that's why it's funny. Is like I toss something up for you, you know?
Oh, it's so
without
bad,
without you there, I don't think I'd be saying some of those things. Like when I say I beat you or whatever, like having you there to be like, no, that's not true. Like really helps my jokes. Is that funny? Am I the bad guy for that? I don't know. But then sometimes you'll be talking about someone or something, and I don't know if I've done it in public, but when you're talking to me and you'll say, this person did this or whatever, I'll be like, is that really what happened? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah. I think.
But that's different when we're talking to each other.
I think there's a time and place to call your husband out publicly. And I think there's a time and place to talk to your husband in private. If your husband says something completely outrageous that is going to impact him or you in a negative way, I think you should call him out in a loving way.
I don't know if you should ever call out your spouse. And we've had this discussion a lot. Like together, it should be united. If there's you could probably come up with an example where it would be okay to call out your spouse and be like, hey, let's.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's ever a good time to correct your spouse in public.
No,
like maybe,
you should not correct your spouse. I think that if you were recalling a story and you were telling it wrong, and I've done this before, I'll be like, no, that's not how it happened. It was this. I think that's fine. If you're like recalling a story or a situation, something that happened, and you recall it incorrectly and
Sure.
I'm like,
Sure.
no, I think it was this. I think that's totally fine. I think
When
that
it goes
if I
further
were
than
to
that.
correct you in public, that is not okay. I think I should.
Well, I would say that's a correction. Here's what I would say. If your spouse is saying something, right? Let's say you're telling a group of friends something, and you get something wrong in a story, and I say, oh, actually it was this. And then you look at me and you're like, oh, right. And then we continue, that's fine, right? But if I say, no, actually it was this, and then you go, no, it wasn't, then I should leave it there, I think. Like I should just be like, okay, this isn't worth us being like, yes, it was. No, it wasn't. I don't think you should have that kind of a disagreement in public, like with other people. Like where you should be like, you've done this a lot to me. You've put me in situations where I've had to defend against everyone and you. Like
that's
you take everyone's
different.
side.
That's
no,
different.
I think that's a really good example though.
Because listen, the situation that he's talking about is
That's a good example.
we were in our church connect group. We were in our small group, and it was
we're bringing it up.
They asked a question, and Carlos answered in what he thought, like what in his opinion, what he thought.
Not my opinion
of the question. Anyway, I said I don't agree with that. And I think that's fine. We don't have to agree all the time. And I wasn't correcting you. I was just saying, I don't agree with that. I think it's this. Because here's the thing, is in that situation, the value of the whole point of that group is to be able to talk with other people of the same faith and to hear everybody out and to get a deeper understanding of God's word. So you said what you thought. And I said, I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's this. And I think that's fine. I don't think that there's an issue in that because we were there for a specific reason. And that was to have fellowship and to dive deeper into God's word and help each other understand it.
I'll go into why it's an issue for men. And this is why I don't think women understand and why they're so willing to disagree with their husbands. For husbands, it's very much like your wife is kind of an example of how you lead your home, and whether or not she listens to you is like a sign of how good of a leader you are. So if you're in public and your wife disagrees with you, that tells everyone that you're a terrible leader in your home, that your wife wears the pants. She makes the decisions on her own. You have no control over her, and not control over her in a bad way. Like, I'm going to, put you in a cage when we get home or whatever. Like does your wife respect you enough to let you have other people disagree with you in public or whatever it is? Does your wife respect you enough to let you face the consequences of your actions and to stand alongside you with in that? Think about Adam and Eve, right? Eve was tempted by the serpent, right? She ate of the fruit. And then what did Adam do? He was not tempted. He was not deceived. He went to Eve, who he understood did something wrong, and he stood with her. He decided that he would rather stand next to her against God than stand with God against her. That is one of the themes, or maybe not themes, but it's something that's relevant in that story, that Adam decided to stand with Eve in her having to face the consequences of her decision. And I think there's something beautiful about that in marriage, that you guys are willing to face evil together and you're willing to face God together. And like your sins are mine, my sins are yours. Like we're tied together in that way. And so it's like, what's the value? What's the benefit of correcting your spouse in public? Not much. There's not much that you gain by saying, I disagree with you, right? There's not much that you gain, but what do you gain by even just sitting there, right? Like, you don't have to be like, I don't like what you said, right? You could just be like, okay. And then even if people asked you, Emily, what do you think about what your husband just said? You could be like, oh, I think it's interesting, I think that that's the kind of power couple that we should be. I think those are the kind of couples that you got to look out for because they're on the same team. And then, we can, when we go home, we can talk about it, and we could be like, you could say, hey, you said this, but have you considered this? Or, stuff like that. But as far as in public, like for a man, there's a huge, how do you say it?
It's like embarrassing.
Almost, yeah. Yeah. Like your wife shows
There's like
a lot.
a prideful thing about it.
Maybe. Which maybe that's not the right word. And maybe it's not good for husbands to be that way. But it's like there is an aspect of showing your unity in public. Like, look, my wife respects me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not even like putting your wife in her place, but as much as it is like, dang, my wife does not respect me. Like, that sucks. Like, I must be a terrible husband. Like, that's how I take it if you disagree. I don't take it very personally when you disagree with me in public, but it would be really cool if we were like same page, right? If you told a story to someone and I corrected you on it and you pushed back on that and we just left it at that, right? We're just like one of us just decides to concede in public. Like, oh, I think you're right. Yeah. Like, to show that unity in public, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Man,
I'll try to be better at that.
Me too.
I didn't know that it like affected you that much.
I think for men, it's big. For men, it's really big.
Okay.
So for women, they just see it as like, oh, you got something wrong. I'm like trying to help you get it right or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this woman in this example was saying, like, I was just saying, I think you got that wrong. Like, oh, or did that actually happen? Like, if you think your husband is being malicious, like if you think he's just straight up lying about people, that's kind of different. Like if, hey, this guy's being rude or whatever, that's something you should probably talk to him about. In public though, probably not. One, because you have to think about the medium too. Like the way that you address your husband has a big impact on whether or not he listens to you.
Yeah.
So if you're going to address him in public about him being a liar, chances are he's going to feel incredibly disrespected and he's not going to even want to hear a word of what you have to say. But if you...
That's kind of like when you did that to me in front of our friends. Like,
right.
I didn't even want to listen to you. All I wanted to do was cry because...
Right. It wasn't about what we were talking about anymore. It was just about like feeling disrespected by your spouse. Like that shouldn't... Yeah. You shouldn't disrespect your spouse in public. And then if you show that you respect them in public, if you show that you respect your husband in public, chances are he's going to be a lot more willing to listen to you when you're at home. And I think, yeah, individually, that's the time to bring it up. But
yeah. Let us know what you think in the comments. Like, let us know if you have any situations that you think it would be beneficial to call your spouse out in public. Or if you think that, no, you should never, ever, ever call your spouse out in public.
I want to also hear if you guys have requests for us to respond to situations or
yeah,
advice.
Let's make our own little like Reddit like stories.
Advice
Let us
hotline.
Like send us your stories through either Instagram, even TikTok, or our email. Do we have our email out there? Like in our Instagram? You can email us, message us on Instagram, even put it in the comments on YouTube, and like give us your stories.
I want to hear your question.
So we can talk about it.
I want to give you guys advice because I'm so good at it. So give me some situations that seem really hard that I can give you advice on. But Emily's getting spammed by her mom or something. So
I don't know what it is.
So we'll end this one. Episode 27. That was all right. I had a few Reddit reactions.
Yeah.
Let us know if you like this style or if we should change it up. Seriously, tell me if you like the curtains. You can't see it here.
And if you're not watching on YouTube, go watch on YouTube.
Watch on YouTube. Compliment my curtains.
Subscribe, comment so that we can... Our YouTube is not doing great, like our TikTok and our Instagram.
We have... Our YouTube, I would say, is doing pretty good.
We have like 600?
We have like 720 subscribers.
Okay, compared to Instagram with 20,000, not doing great.
Yeah, but they're just different media.
All right, anyway... We love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.